morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is, I am not surprised to see it. This card may look familiar. We've got here our 4 of Swords in its upright. What's the nice thing about the past coming back? Well, the nice thing about the past coming back is that's that moment that we can build energetic closure around circumstances and situations. And one of the things that we like to remind everyone about here, closure is not something that we receive from other people. Closure is what we create within ourselves. The ability to create closure for ourselves is what allows that validation point in terms of moving forward. Everybody, a lot of this work right now, a lot of this work between the eclipse cycle coming up, the energy of the eclipse, the come down from the eclipse combined with the pulling back of the Mercury retrograde, and now a lot of this scorpionic full moon. This is a lot of energetic release that we are seeing that is occurring around situations and circumstances. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. A lot of this is going to be feeling like that energetic point of catharsis, building upon that sense of energetic rest. And we see even now, a lot of this energy may feel like it is creating that need or desire for energetic rest right now. This is either going to feel like in the tangible space right now or in like the metaphysical space. Why? Because these energies, they've almost been working, like I want to say that masculine and feminine energy over the last few days has not been in the same, like they've been moving in different, very different ways in the same energetic vibration. Masculine has really been trying to push forward, and it's very frustrating for the masculine right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because I've been describing this to a certain extent, like the masculine energy, almost feeling like you're like navigating or moving through quicksand with some of this energy. It's been slow going. It's frustrating. What happens when we're energetically trying to move through something and it feels just like energetically like there's a heaviness there? It can be energetically exhaustive because it can almost feel like you're moving oppositional to what you, it almost feels like the energy itself is like pushing against you to a certain extent. So one of the things that we see is that this is an energy or a frequency right now where masculine may need to take a little bit of me time. Like masculine energy, I really want you to be focusing right now on what you feel like you truly energetically need. Because even now, a lot of this is feeling that need or desire to come into that space of some energetic peace. Feminine energy has already been a little bit more in this frequency right now, right? We've been seeing that the feminine energy in this vibration has been navigating forward from this time, even in the divine union frequency, doing a lot of that introspective, that deeper introspection. So even now we see that some of this energy here is actually a bit of a positive for the energy in the divine union frequency, because this is almost that moment of mutual agreement. Right? What do we almost feel like you need to do when you're finding those experiences where you've been going through and you've been having very different experiences? That need or that desire for some energetic rest is what's like amplifying and helping a lot of the energy right now that is moving through this. Because that ability to almost allow each other to be conscientious, to almost look towards the other from a point of empathy and sympathy, like navigating forward in that way, having that moment of almost energetically serving the other. It's like the one thing that they know that they can both energetically agree upon, even if they've been going through this in a different way, is the fact that the work has been energetically heavy enough that it requires that need or that desire to take a little bit of energetic easement. So today, interestingly, might not necessarily be a day of we're seeing a lot of that energetic activity, which again, depending on what you're trying to do right now, may feel frustrating if you're trying to move things forward today, or if you're just kind of letting yourself go with the energetic flow, might be a little bit energetically easier. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. A lot of this energy has been doing a lot of heavy lifting right now in terms of trying to find that point of mutual modification. What do I mean by mutual modification? We're recognizing and identifying for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, that ability to make adjustments, that ability to be adaptable, potentially even pushing out of your own comfort zone, to be able to meet the needs of the other. You are learning how to do this to a certain extent. And for a lot of the energy, it's difficult. It may even have been a bit energetically triggering. I'm even going to say it's very likely and possible for some of the energy, either in the heart of the divine union right now, or even energy that's coming into divine union, there may have already been some triggers that were hit. There may have been some volatility here. But we see even now that some of that ability to, again, the gift of being in divine union, the gift of being in the heart of divine union, or even coming into divine union, it's not a place where conflict cannot exist, because the difference, or I'll put it this way, arguments cannot exist. The importance and the value between what happens in the heart of the divine union versus what happens outside of it can be best amplified by the difference between what is an energetic argument versus a conflict. What is an energetic argument? An energetic argument are energies that want the same things, have different desires on how to get there, right? And the difference between a conflict are two energies that want very different things, and they're trying to pull each other onto their own energetic paths. The energy that's moving into the divine union frequency, and the energy that, again, either moving into the divine union frequency right now or coming into the heart of the divine union frequency, that ability of recognizing, being able to look at the long view, being able to focus on the manifestation goals, being able to build together forward in that capacity and in that way, it almost allows for that moment of energetic easement, because it's that ability of the reason that you don't energetically the reason the energy in coming into divine union doesn't sweat the small stuff is not due to a lack of care on the small stuff. It's that the energetic prioritization is on the bigger picture. Do you recognize that? So that's what we see here. That's why we see even now the ability to modify, the ability to accommodate. That is almost the gift that they grant each other as they move deeper into the divine union, because that is that moment of saying that when one is moving forward towards something, being able to look at one's long-term aspiration goal and move towards that to a certain extent, that is what creates that ability of not feeling like you need to immediately have everything at the exact moment that you desire it, because this energy is learning that gift of energetic patience, coming into that sense of saying to oneself, even if it's creating that moment of having to feel some kind of energetic delay in terms of something that you immediately want, right? Being able to move that moment of immediate gratification a little bit aside. That is the energy that recognizes that the gift and the benefit of doing so, coming into that space of building that compassionate work with someone else, seeing someone else doing that for you as well. That is that moment that feels like it isn't an energetic sacrifice, because you're moving towards something with someone together. You have that longer term aspiration, that moment of looking towards something and holding that as the prioritization point is what allows for that energetic peace in the present. And we see that a lot of the energy right now that's coming into divine union is learning the sense of catharsis, the sense of relief in feeling that is that moment that almost allows things to feel easy. Not because you're choosing not to energetically care about something, but because you care about something a lot. It's just that what you're caring about is moving towards those manifestation goals together. Masculine and feminine energy that's in separation right now. One of the things that we see is that moment that is amplifying that need for energetic catharsis. And for a lot of the energy right now, some of that breakthrough could be occurring around situations or circumstances wherein there wasn't that ability, looking back on situations and circumstances and recognizing the lack of that ability in some energetic connections. This could be one of those moments that, again, a lot of the feminine and masculine energy is potentially realizing that maybe some of that work in terms of what you're letting go of the past had to do with not like what happens when we don't have those manifestation goals in play. What happens in those moments that we're trying to build forward with, but we don't have that mutual manifestation goal. That's that moment that almost feels like the difference of someone saying, like, you care too much about something, you're not able to come into that point of energetic compromise. But we see here that is why we recognize that that's that twofold thing that is energetically needed to a certain extent in partnership. The combination of being able to be adaptable in the present is an articulation point of someone recognizing a bigger picture with someone. So we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, that modality of recognition on that, navigating forward to a certain extent, even in separation, that moment is bringing a level or degree of energetic catharsis to a lot of feminine energy. because that is that moment of the feminine energy recognizing and identifying that masculine energy that moves towards the feminine with intentionality of purpose will always be energetically patient, because the ability to see masculine energy coming towards feminine from a point of energetic patience is the amplification point of a masculine that is building towards a long-term manifestation goal with the feminine. It doesn't need to be rushed, because the masculine knows that what they're creating with the feminine is not something that needs to just be immediate gratification. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy going through that type of energetic breakthrough, or recognizing that to a certain extent, this is a lot of the feminine energy continuing to stay very grounded on their own path work, particularly in relationality, to almost seeing and observing, even if masculine's coming towards them at this time, that ability of kind of taking a bit of a wait and see approach, not feeling like they have to be immediately energetically reactive towards the masculine, understanding and recognizing that the healed masculine energy will understand and recognize the level and degree of patience that they would move towards the feminine on. I told you, a lot of this feminine energy in separation is manifesting forward the healed masculine energy that knows and identifies what their path and purpose is, and is able to lead forward to feminine in this way. While for masculine energy, that's that moment. If these are spaces or places wherein you led forth to feminine yesterday from a point of emotional honesty, if you were able to bring forth that ability of being both intentional, being honest and authentic and intentional, being able to merge those two zones, if that was a moment where you recognize that the feminine was able to energetically receive that, but was a little energetically trepidatious, your own ability of feeling that moment of the feminine being able to receive you in that way, that allows for that modality of energetic catharsis, because that is that moment for the masculine of feeling the security of seeing a feminine that, again, potentially has their energetic walls up to a certain extent, but are potentially adopting a bit more of that wait and see approach. So we see even now that this frequency, the signature, is potentially bringing forth a lot of energetic healing, either in the space or state of new energetic connections between masculine and feminine, wherein masculine is leading forth with authenticity and intentionality of purpose, or feminine and masculine motivating themselves forward in this way, feeling the security of stability of knowing, taking that wait and see approach and saying, I don't need to energetically rush something, because what is for me won't necessarily need to be energetically rushed. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is Queen of Wands in its reversal. We see even now, this is why a lot of the feminine energy right now in separation, I got to stress this, feminine energy right now is doing a lot of work in relationality to making sure that they're feeling like that point of not being energetically misunderstood. We're just seeing and recognizing to a certain degree right now that the feminine energy, I like look at this. This is really beautiful, actually. This is feminine energy that even now, like I told you, some of the feminine energy right now in separation is feeling a little bit of that fuel, feeling a little bit of that fire, feeling a little bit of that fury, if you will, working through a lot of that, almost saying like that is something that is appropriate and accountable for a lot of the energetic journey of the feminine. The feminine energy is almost utilizing this time right now, taking this. Is this feminine energy that's speaking forth from this place right now? No. This is feminine energy that is doing a lot of that intentional path work in relationality to making sure that they're not being misunderstood. And even to the extent of the feminine energy, almost again, articulating and recognizing and identifying, doing that very fastidious work. If the feminine, this is almost the feminine energy saying to themselves, if I don't have something energetically nice to say, it's not, and this is what's important about this. I need to stress this because this is what I really value about what we're seeing with this feminine energy and healing. Remember what I said yesterday about the fact that if you had something to say today with this type of frequency, give it 5 minutes. If you still feel like that in 5 minutes, maybe give it an hour. If you still feel like that in an hour, you got to say to yourself, well, I feel like that tomorrow, because that's the feminine energy. It's not that the feminine energy doesn't feel energetically validated in relationality to what they're energetically feeling right now. The feminine energy is almost, I want to say, energetically testing how they energetically feel right now in separation, particularly if this is something that the feminine is feeling a little bit of that energetic frustration on right now. This is the feminine almost saying, it's not that I don't feel validated to assume this energetic position, but I'm going to give myself enough time to identify if this is something that feels momentary based on the energetic frequency, or if this is something that I may feel after this. And what did I tell you is important and vital about coming into this scorpionic full moon? It is perfectly okay to say the soft part out loud, so long as you had that modality or that moment that you've put a lot of that thought and consideration and intentionality in relationality to what you are articulating and what you are saying. Because that is the difference between utilizing the scorpionic full moon in a way of being able to have a difficult energetic conversation that feels like it is energetically productive, as opposed to just having those moments where you pop off and you say something that you feel doesn't necessarily feel like it's in alignment with how you truly energetically feel. So don't get triggered. Masculine energy right now in separation. This is one of those moments that we see even now. Masculine energy. If these are spaces or places wherein you're leading forward right now to feminine, if in separation, or you're trepidatiously trying to move towards the feminine in this way, we see that you are also utilizing that important path work, if you will, of recognizing and identifying, taking energetic patience to a certain extent. If there's feminine energy, that again, if you're going towards feminine and feminine is being very like guarded towards you, well, this is the beauty of the healed masculine energy. You've done enough work on healing your own feminine that you may recognize and understand why you are finding the feminine energy in that modality. Right? This is masculine energy that you've been doing a lot of work on healing your own internal feminine energy. So this is that moment that we see that that's the masculine energy to a certain extent, almost looking towards the feminine. If that's a feminine that's like, being a little bit more conscientious in terms of how they're responding, or even now feeling that uncertainty about how the feminine is going to react as you bring this forward towards them. This is that moment that we see that the masculine is recognizing the value and the importance of, again, energetic patience, like letting that energetic patience prevail to a certain extent, because that's the masculine energy that's either leading forth towards new connections with feminine that they recognize are moving through their own energetic cycles of healing, right? And wanting to be wanting to make sure that they're not being energetically misunderstood as they do so. Or this is masculine energy that's coming into a path of trying to rebuild with a feminine connection, wherein they feel that sense, like what happens when we build that pathwork of purpose. A lot of that masculine energy we saw, this is either something that you're driving forward with, an energetic lesson that's helping propel, like that deep lesson learned that feels like it came at a very high cost energetically. Or this is masculine energy that's trying to amend, like trying to heal towards a feminine, trying to come into that space or place of building that sense of accountability and recognizing that if you have to come into a space of healing with a feminine energy, that's not something that you can just drop forward and say, hey, I'm energetically sorry. That's something that, again, almost recognizing the feminine energy is going to have to see some kind of like true validation point in relationality to your own ability to heal. And that's a type of path work that takes a lot of energetic time. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, one of the things that we're seeing is this is the energy that's effectively learning how to come into that point of energetic modification with one another, even at this time. And it's not easy. It's not energetically easy. We just see this happening. Masculine and feminine energy. We even see, I'm getting a lot of this like modality here. For a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now, it may feel the amplification point of like, it's like first fight energy, like a little bit of that, like those moments about like accidentally like knocking elbows. We've seen a lot of like room. I told you, it's all of that retrograde with the come down of the clips, places of being like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was sensitive. Oh, I didn't mean to touch that. No, don't do that. Like a lot of that, like accidental, inadvertent stepping on energetic toes, like tangibly, physically, like a little like, all these little bumps and stuff like that, like all of these like little moments. But again, What is happening for the energy that's coming into divine union frequency? That ability to navigate through that to a certain extent, that ability to recognize and to modify. This is the gift that the energy coming into divine union is experiencing, because more than anything, and this is the valuable point here, this isn't spaces or places where these energies are projecting out to one another, right? These aren't those moments of saying to one another and going into that point of energetically like articulating and saying like, this is a you thing, you need to fix this, you need to modify this. No, these are energies that are effectively going inward, looking towards those moments. So for masculine, seeing a feminine energy coming into that point of accountability, like immediately, not necessarily saying like, not instructing or telling the masculine what to do, but almost coming into that point of energetic introspection on what they can accommodate, what they can change for. That is the masculine feeling the energetic relief of a feminine that's very energetically mindful of the difference between what they're feeling and what they can change, while also being energetic resilient in terms of what they energetically need. Like the feminine energy that's done a lot of that work in healing, where they can, again, confidently and resiliently almost utilize their own words, right? While for feminine energy right now, seeing a masculine that works very hard, like comes into that state or space of, again, not projecting outwards, not feeling that frustration point towards the feminine in those moments that they're inadvertently doing that. These are energies that, if anything, having those moments of breakthrough right now, one of the only things that's difficult about it is it's potentially reminding energy of past experiences or past situations. And I will say this may be we saw this happening a lot more yesterday for the feminine. We're seeing it now happening a lot more for the masculine. Because for the masculine energy right now, that modality or that ability, if you will, is almost, again, hearkening back. What happens when they see when the masculine recognizes and identifies and sees a feminine that's doing that energetic work of, again, introspection, not to be able to like say to because we see a lot of the feminine energy right now is having a lot of that feeling. I want to put it the best way I can describe it, as not knowing where to put their finger on it. Right? We saw that yesterday with a lot of this feminine energy being like, I don't want to stay here. I don't want to go out. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But even for a feminine energy, to be able to articulate upon that, right? The feminine energy that is able to almost say to the masculine, no, this is just a me thing. Like, I'm just going through something right now. And I'm not telling you that you need to change anything, because I can't even figure out what that is. That is, again, the masculine energy that feels safe and confident and protected and at ease with a feminine energy, because even it doesn't mean that the feminine energy has to be in emotional balance at every moment. It's the most important thing that when feminine energy is feeling like that the feminine energy has done the work of resiliency, not to create that state or space of projecting it outwards, but rather to come into that deeper pathwork of identifying and recognizing their own energetic limitations. Being, again, almost looking first to try to navigate in terms of pinpointing the locationality of an energetic problem. That is a masculine that feels energetically safe around a feminine, because that's a feminine energy that does that work within the self as opposed to projecting it outwards. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the heart of the divine union, this is a little bit of a reversal. Because what we've been recognizing and identifying, one of the things I brought up that was happening yesterday for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union, you've already done this work. You've been doing this work. All of this work is why you're in the heart of the divine union frequency. The challenge that we see that is occurring right now for a lot of energy in the heart of the divine union frequency has to do, remember what I said, the gift. What is the gift of the Mercury retrograde periods? The gift of the Mercury retrograde periods is knocking you out. The only way that you can effectively identify the difference between a groove and a rut is when you get knocked out of it. If you fall back into it because it's what works, well, congratulations, you found a groove. If you pop out of it and you go, you know what, there's probably a better way of doing something, there's something there I can correct, well, there you go. Thank the retrograde. You just found an innovation at the moment that the retrograde went like, meh, and like shook everything up. So we see even now that a lot of the work that is happening in the retrograde period for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency is asserting, is affirming, is looking at energetic cycles to identify the difference between what feels like it is energetically productive, a groove, right? That would be a groove, something that is energetically productive, versus something that is an energetic rut. Something that is cyclical, but it is creating an energetic blockage. It's not showing that path of progress. It's preventing one from coming into one's highest version of self. And we see even now that a lot of the work of the energy in the divine union is doing that difficult work of having that, I told you, that microscopic viewing on circumstances and situations to try to identify what feels like it is energetically productive versus what feels like it is an energetic blockage point. Because that's not to say that something that is cyclical or something that is a groove is negative, so long as it feels like it is moving in a way that doesn't create a blockage in relationality to moving towards manifestation goals or being able to manifest the feeling that one would aspire and desire to have in a manifestation goal in the present context. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, it's on top of it though, it's very energetically triggering right now because we have here, I told you, this Scorpio energy is like, it is a little hairy, okay? Like it can feel a little, what happens, like when we do that deep work, right? When we go into that deep path work, it can be difficult because we have to move into hard areas to look at. We have to investigate things that are hard to face, right? And being able to do that to a certain extent, it can also be very energetically triggering. The reason a hard conversation is a hard conversation is because when we have difficult conversations, we have to go into places that we know that there are a lot of energetic triggers to a certain extent. So what we're recognizing and identifying that for a lot of the energy that's effectively doing this work in the heart of the divine union right now, it is difficult. It is like, I'm telling you, it's like feeling like some of the energy in the divine union might feel like you're walking on eggshells at the best, tripping through a minefield at the worst, because these are sensitive spaces. What do we do in sensitive spaces? Do we energetically avoid those things? Do we just say, oh, I guess that's a no zone? That's what's happening for the energy down, like in coming into the divine union. But that's more of, again, that energetic mindfulness. Because what we're seeing and recognizing right now, and this is what's really valuable and important, is the difference energetically between what we consider, and I told you, this has been something that's been happening over the last few weeks for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency. What is the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency trying to do right now? They're trying to heal abandonment wounds. They're trying to heal abandonment wounds. So when you're trying to heal abandonment wounds, what we effectively see is occurring is you have to be able to have what we want to describe as brave conversations, right? You have to be able to move into those spaces or places. You have to be able to confront things that are hard to confront. So what we're effectively experiencing right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, this may feel like very challenging moments. And even now, this is why we see it may feel very energetically triggering, because these are these moments that, again, prior to and this is either something that the feminine is doing within their own self right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, or these are externalized conversations that are potentially happening, because these are energies right now that, again, are trying to identify the difference between an energetic groove, something that is productive, something that you do that energetically works, something that moves you towards your manifestation goal, versus what could feel like an energetic rut, which is something that you're doing that isn't moving you, isn't moving that needle, potentially it's feeling like it's pulling you backwards, potentially creating that blockage point. The only way to navigate through that is potentially by having those hard conversations. And those are either the hard conversations that you have with oneself, right? With one's own self, or those are the hard conversations that you have with the counterpart. So we see even now a lot of these energies in the heart of the divine union, having that energetic work, addressing those hard things, all for the sense and the sake of building upon energetic breakthroughs. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is the opposite. This is discovering them. This isn't probing them. This isn't going in like intentionally being like putting on your little your little helmet and being like, we're going to the abandonment wound. We're going down now to the abandonment wound to figure out what we need to do. This is the energy that's in the heart that are coming into the divine union frequency. That's like, I didn't even know you had one there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch that. I don't know what that was, but that's the beauty of this energy that's coming into divine union right now. This is that moment that we're energetically seeing to a certain extent. What happens, and even now, we may see that there's a lot of vulnerabilities that are coming to the surface, but the beauty of the energy coming into the divine union frequency is, again, that beautiful gift that we have when we really see the heart of energetic love and compassion, which is observing and recognizing someone's vulnerability, seeing it, and saying, thank you. I will work right now to protect this at all costs. I will work to do what I need to make sure that this is energetically protected. We see what may have happened already, and this is why the need to facilitate productive conversations is so valuable and important right now. The difference between reacting towards having an energetic trigger accidentally or inadvertently touched versus being able to articulate to someone and say, that's a little bit of a sensitive subject, right? What happens when someone says that? It requires like that, almost that moment of, again, potentially necessary probing. Being like, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Why? For the sake of understanding something better, to be able to facilitate protecting something in a better way. And we see even now that ability of coming into recognizing one another's vulnerability points and almost saying to one another, like giving it to each other like precious gems and saying like, thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that before. I will do everything I can to be more sensitive and careful about that. That is that moment that almost, again, when we experience those trigger points, they can build into the heart of intimacy, because that's not that moment of someone saying, this is a sore subject to me, and someone going, good, this is where I'm going to stick my finger. Like, good, this is where I'm going to like throw the salt. That's that moment of someone saying, I'm going to show you how much I care about you, by showing you that it is safe to tell me those things, and I will show you that I will protect them at all costs. So we see even now a lot of that energy, even experiencing that may in itself feel energetically triggering to some of the feminine, because that could be reminding the feminine of spaces and places wherein that occurred and the opposite happened, right? What happens in the moment that someone experiences something that is sensitive to you and says, I will work very hard to protect it? For the feminine, sometimes that can feel even worse, because it immediately reminds you of those spaces and places wherein someone might have done the opposite. Masculine, recognizing that as well, that may create an energetic flare-up if you even feel and experience something of the feminine articulating that to you in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to say it again. Don't get triggered today. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. A lot of this is the feminine. I told you, a lot of the feminine energy right now, just processing through a lot of energetic purging and separation. And it's hard. I can see even now that a lot of the feminine energy right now, like this is like, it's frustrating. I'm just going to be completely honest. I can see a lot of that feminine energy, feeling a lot of that energetic frustration coming up today. And here's the thing though, this is feminine energy. If feminine energy is resting today, this is almost like the feminine energy trying to like energetically control the blast radius in relationality to what they're feeling. Because this is almost the feminine energy. And this is why we see a lot of the feminine energy is practicing a lot of energetic patience right now, being amplified. And this is how the feminine is utilizing the pathwork of discernment in relationality to how they're feeling. Feminine energy is saying to themselves at this time with this Scorpio full moon, is this a momentary feeling? Is this something that I'm having a feeling about right now? Or is this something that I've been feeling for a while? That is literally the modifier that feminine is utilizing right now to recognize and understand the difference between something that they're feeling is an external trigger, something that they keep on having to navigate, something that they keep on having to energetically face that is outside of the self, or something that they're energetically feeling in the moment that is creating that sense or that sensation of energetic frustration in the momentary moment, which is why in this particular moment in time. Again, the characterization between what feels like a passing fancy, a passing passion, versus something that they're saying, no, I felt like this. This is not the first time I felt like this. This is something, this has been coming around in the washing machine a few times. This is back again, right? Because that's the feminine energy figuring out or identifying what is the difference between something that they need to heal from within, something that the feminine is saying, this is a me problem, versus what the feminine is saying, this isn't a me problem. This is something I need to deal with. That's all about location, 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 location. And the feminine energy taking this, again, a lot of this energy of introspection right now to determine if this is something that the feminine's seeing and being like, no, that's a me problem. I always do this. I need to work on this. This is a challenging zone for me, right? This is feminine energy in their healing space. This is feminine energy taking the energetic accountability in some spaces, being like, I know I have a tendency to do this. I recognize that's a me thing, versus feminine being like, this is not a me thing. This is something that's outside of me that I'm perpetually having to deal with. So we see now that even that moment, that can create a moment of feminine feeling a lot of that intensity and trying to identify the locationality as opposed to letting themselves get triggered before they recognize and identify it. Masculine energy in separation. This is potentially a lot of masculine energy taking some accountability if in separation as to, again, I told you a lot of the masculine energy over the last few days, if these are modalities or spaces or places where in masculine energy, you're doing a lot of that work. Things have been reprioritized in your life. You recognize that you're ready to move into that space of reprioritization to a certain extent. That can feel really, really energetically difficult because I told you what happens when we move into that state or space where we energetically reprioritize. It's suddenly looking back at situations from a different context, right? It's recognizing and identifying and seeing things from a different perspective. When we reprioritize, it can often be that moment of being able to see something in a way that we haven't energetically seen something before. Because sometimes when and that's that moment that we can look back on something. What happens when we energetically reprioritize? Well, unfortunately, we look back and say, wow, my priorities were all in the wrong place. The priorities were in the wrong place, the wrong direction. So for masculine energy, doing that work, right? That moment of recognizing or identifying, that's that moment of potentially looking back on something and seeing something from a different perspective that you couldn't see it before. And again, I'm going to say this, masculine energy, if you're having that moment, well, congratulations, because that does mean that you're energetically healing. Your own ability to identify and see something from someone else's perspective, and even potentially to see how someone else might perceive you because your priorities may have been in the wrong space or place in the past. This is what is effectively allowing for a lot of the breakthrough of the masculine energy at this time, being best articulated in feeling like you're looking back on the past and learning a very valuable lesson through which you're coming into wanting to correct issues within your own self going forward, something that you're seeing and being like, I've identified the problem. It's within me. I can change that as I go forward. Or this is masculine energy that's trying to heal something with a feminine energy from the past, wherein they recognize why the feminine energy might be so trepidatious in terms of building forth, especially if your priorities have changed in the time intervening. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is High Priestess. Feminine energy, I gotta stress, a lot of, I can see that for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, this is just a controlled blaze. This is like a controlled blaze. This is feeling that energetic fire, right? That's feeling that passion. That's feeling that, like that I just want to call it like that fire from the past coming back, seeing something in a different way that often just kindles a fire in us. But what is the feminine energy doing with this? Is the feminine energy letting this become a space of frustration? Is this a place of the feminine taking this and letting this be a moment of letting some kind of bitterness for the past hold you in place, like creating that moment of just like poisoning yourself with some of that feeling? No. This is feminine energy that's almost building into it, leaning in, saying, I'm letting this, I'm transforming this into that positive affirmation. I'm going to take this fire that I'm feeling. I'm not going to use it to burn others. I'm going to create this moment where I allow this point of like energetically cleansing the self, if you will. That moment of being like, I'm going to turn this into creativity. I'm going to turn this into passion. I'm going to turn this into something that feels like it is energetically positive, energetically productive. That is that moment where we can take a lot of that fury, a lot of that anger for the past. The anger for the past can become the spark of inspiration for the present. We can transform that angry fire from the past into the spark of inspiration, because that is the feminine energy that's mindful of their own. They're tending their own spirit. They're tending their own frequency. They're saying, I'm going to cultivate an energy within me that I refuse to let this. I refuse to let that anger from the past turn me into the thing that I don't want to become. I'm not going to let those things I'm not going to let the past hold space in me in a way that it creates that negative emotion, that it creates that bitterness, that creates that hostility. I'm going to take that and I'm going to move it into a place that helps me find my highest version of self. I'm going to move that into that place of recognizing what that highest version of self is. I'm going to continue to focus on that. I'm not going to let it distract me. I'm not going to let that bitterness distract me. I'm going to let it help me focus. I'm going to let it keep me in an energetic alignment. And even now we see that while that is a moment of the feminine potentially being very still, we're not seeing a lot of energetic activation right now for the feminine, not taking a lot of like huge steps today. Again, navigating the energetic frequency and just allowing it to be one of the feminine. This is almost a feminine saying, if I don't do anything, this is feminine going, if I just maintain balance today, that's the feminine going, woo, I succeeded. I energetically succeeded. Congratulations. Oh, because that's the feminine energy basically saying, the value of the feminine going through that is feminine saying, I have conquered my own self. I have mastered my own self. I have found that ability to control my own self, not necessarily due to the externalized factors from without, not due to the past without, but almost allowing that to be saying to oneself over and over, who do I want to be in this moment? Who do I choose to be? Regardless of what happened in the past, regardless of what is happening in the present, who do I choose to be in this moment? Who do I choose to be in this moment? And that is how the feminine energy in separation is navigating through a lot of this energetic intensity that is being brought about with this Scorpio moon, right? That's the moment of just saying the mantra is, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Right? And for the masculine energy right now in separation, that modality, that point of perception, that recognition point, as it were, this is masculine energy. I told you, having that moment, the experiences from the past, amplifying, building upon those amplification points, feeling those experiences from the past, having that energetic regret, experiencing that moment even now. And this is either, I told you, masculine energy that's moving from one or two different modalities if in this healing frequency. This is either masculine energy that is utilizing this path work, coming towards feminine with a sense of, again, intentionality of purpose, right? And authenticity, building towards that tentatively. If this is past connections, trying to energetically heal while recognizing the perception of the feminine may have towards them at this time, recognizing that is a long road to travel. Or this is masculine energy that is utilizing that past lesson, holding that moment almost again from a point of deep energetic regret, but affirming that point of active change in relationality to building towards that manifestation of who they aspire and desire to build with as they move forward from this time. So a lot of energetic catharsis coming into play in relationality right now for both masculine and feminine in separation. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is all about discovering each other's, like, this is a lot of energy and this is where we see again, like, say thank you to the Mercury retrograde. Because if these are moments wherein you're inadvertently miscommunicating, you're suddenly hitting a soft spot that you didn't know about, you're hitting a little vulnerability, you didn't know about something, oops, like a lot of this, like these missteps, those moments, those abilities right now of seeing the energy that's coming into divine union right now is building a sense of growing intimacy with one another, potentially by inadvertently triggering each other and discovering abandonment wounds that you didn't know were there. And what is this energy saying towards themselves at this time? Are they taking that? Are they like, are they projecting outwards on it? Are they saying, oh, that sounds like a you problem? Well, you should work on that. You should fix that. Or is this energy being very sensitive, being very mindful, being very observant and saying, I didn't recognize that that was energetically there. I will be more conscientious. I will be more sensitive. Masculine and feminine energy doing this. This is building into the heart of intimacy, because this is the energy discovering one another's vulnerability points and then having that moment in that point of intimacy and being able to articulate on like a vulnerability point, saying, thank you for telling me that. I will protect that at all costs. That is the energy that is building into that frequency of love, because that is that energy of recognizing and having that point of compassion. For masculine, the feminine energy to be able to articulate in this way feels like it energetically protects the masculine, because this isn't a feminine energy that just, gets extremely sensitive and the masculine doesn't know why. This is a feminine energy that can actually put a lot of introspection in telling the masculine, this is why something is energetically sensitive to me. And that's a masculine who feels like that's a feminine that knows how to energetically protect the masculine from the feminine's emotions by being able to articulate upon them. While for feminine, seeing a masculine that's also able to do that, to be able to be present and to listen and to also do the same in kind, to tell you their triggers. These are both energies, again, building a deeper connection, even through what may feel like a lot of these energetic hurdles that you may be inadvertently knocking into right now. While for the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this is that energetic signature that we are effectively seeing. That is, I need to say this, it's the opposite. It's the energetic opposite right now. And this is why this work is so intriguing, because we see that for a lot of the heart energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, the observation of the energetic triggers are there. That for a lot of the heart energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, the observation of the energetic triggers. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got our judgment card. So you understand, like this, and this is what's so important about this. This is not the type of word. Why can the energy in the heart of the divine union do this type of work right now? Why can the energy do this while the other energy is doing the opposite? Because the energy in the heart of the divine union trusts the energetic judgment of the counterpart energy. These, I told you, these are energies that have been in the heart of the divine union for quite some time. This is energy that builds upon what happens when you build that energetic connection with someone. You continue. What is the expansion point in relationality to what does trust truly mean? What does trust truly mean? Trust effectively means, I trust your judgment. I trust the decisions that you make. When we say to someone, do you trust me? We don't mean that question of saying to someone, do you believe what I am saying is true? The words, do you trust me, mean, do you trust my judgment? So we see even now that these energies have built enough trust in one another's judgment. So to such an extent, trusting that what you're navigating for, holding the highest aspiration of the other towards the other, is what energetically allows these energies to move forward in this way, because that is the ability of saying to someone, I energetically trust you. That is that moment of being able to say, if you see something within me that I do not see within myself, I want you to bring it forward so that we can assess it, so we can look at it, so we can ask if there's something energetically there that is moving me closer to my own energetic mark in relationality to who I aspire to be in my highest version of self, or if I am standing in my own way. This is the energy. This is that act of compassion. This is that tough, energetic love, if you will, that the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency navigates through, because this is the energetic frequency of looking towards something and observing a difficult situation, looking how, and not looking at something and saying, okay, well, I guess something's going to be difficult, and I guess it'll just be difficult forever, and I guess we'll just navigate with this being a difficult thing that we just need to address and just accept. No, the energy in the divine union frequency doesn't settle for that. The energy in the divine union frequency says, why should we have to energetically settle if there's something within the self that feels like it is preventing us from becoming our highest version of self? That is that moment and modality that, again, it's hard energetic work. It requires that difficult conversation, but it almost allows for that energetic breakthrough and productivity, because that is the moment of saying, I not only trust my own self, but I trust the judgment of the counterpart energy to help me find that highest version of self, even beyond my own ability to see and do so. Masculine and feminine energy experiencing this right now in the heart of the divine union frequency. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency. Let's just stick to discovering. Let's just stick to discovering what those are. Like, let's crawl before we walk. The energy coming into the divine union frequency. You're just learning. You're just working through that moment. You're doing that path work. You're learning. You're finding these little places that you didn't know in one another. But again, those are becoming the tie that binds. Because what is happening right now, those are energies that are feeling that moment of experiencing soft spots. But what is happening? That act of energetic compassion. The energy saying to one another, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I can't be held accountable for what I didn't know, but now that I do know, I will be more energetically sensitive. That is that moment that we immediately, even if there's a sensitive subject that gets hit or a trigger that gets pulled, someone's own ability to adapt and to take accountability and to modify, that is that moment that builds the energetic trust, as it were. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, what we're effectively seeing is for the energy in separation, this is a lot of the energy just clearing a lot of those past karmic cycles, if you will. Feminine energy, this is that moment that, again, feeling that amplification of the past and then looking back at the past version of self, feeling potentially that energetic frustration, right? This is feminine energy taking some of that accountability even in the past experience, right? And what's beautiful about this for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now is this is the feminine energy coming into a space or state of looking towards something and saying to themselves, this moment of looking and taking accountability and saying, I was not energetically perfect. But what is the feminine energy utilizing in terms of looking at the past right now with a point of introspection? This is the feminine energy almost saying, if I moved away from my highest purpose, yes, there's accountability there of the feminine recognizing and identifying and saying, I should have energetically done better. But that's also the feminine energy saying, what was the environment? What was the situation? What was the circumstance that brought that out in me? What were the factors that were involved? And this is a feminine energy that's utilizing a lot of energetic discernment. I told you, location, trying to pinpoint the difference between what the feminine energy needs to change and modify and adjust within the self versus what the feminine needs to externally avoid, because that's the feminine energy almost looking at something and saying, there are a lot of factors that come into play in relationality to how the feminine energy feels like they want to move into that highest version of self. And the feminine energy is taking that energetic accountability, as it were, to identify and recognize what feels like the feminine needs to adjust and modify within the internal self versus what the feminine energy it was experiencing externally that may have brought the feminine moving in out of alignment of themselves, that is helping the feminine build into that highest version of self as they proceed forward on this point. Because this is feminine energy in separation saying, if I'm trying to build towards finding my divine masculine energy, I need to move towards my divine feminine energy. I need to work towards being my highest version of self for that. That's feminine energy, not doing it for another energy. That's the feminine energy finding it for themselves and letting that energy of the highest version of self be the frequency of discernment that guides their path forward. While for masculine energy, in separation right now, for the masculine energy in separation, this is masculine energy that is doing that hard intentional work, as it were, of, again, potentially, rather than the feminine, like feeling that frustration and anger potentially around past circumstances or situations. This is masculine that's you're potentially looking back. If your priorities have shifted, you may be looking back at something with some feeling of energetic regret. And I have to say this right now for masculine energy. If you can look back at the past version of self and you've got some energetic notes, well, congratulations, because that means that you're having an energetic breakthrough. It means that you're moving towards a higher version of self. It means that you're holding yourself to a higher energetic standard. So we see even now that a lot of this is now about a masculine energy moving with a sense of purpose in relationality to building into the desire to build forth with feminine from a place of energetic openness and honesty, taking energetic accountability, but also moving with intention of purpose. And a lot of this has to do, again, we keep getting, it's not so much location for the masculine, so much so as it is direction. It's more about the direction that the masculine you're going with this, because this is either masculine energy. If your priorities have changed, you may feel like you left something in the past. You may energetically just feel like you left something very valuable in the past. And this is either that path work of wanting to go back to past circumstances and situations to be able to come into that place of modifying wherein you're now holding yourself to a higher energetic standard. Or this is masculine energy that is taking that direction and utilizing it, sensing that past version of self, wishing one could change something, feeling that inability to do so. That's almost reaffirming your own commitment in terms of going forward, as it were, taking those past experiences as valuable lessons that you'll then put forth as you move forward towards some unseen or new energetic connection of feminine that you feel may be that point of like, now that you found yourself here, like that's the energy of finding that divine counterpart. It really depends on, this is going to be on a case-by-case basis right now for the masculine in relationality to where your heart is driving you. It's all about that sense of higher judgment. That's like the nuance that you can only receive in like a personal reading. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Swords in combination with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through. Oh boy. Everybody watch your words today. Everybody watch your words today. Everybody's tongue-tied today. It's just everybody's going to be like, masculine and feminine in separation right now. And I got to say, everybody's got to throw each other a little bone today, right? Because these energies, I told you, they're experiencing the same thing in very different ways, okay? Same things in very different ways. The only problem is you can see the abundance of potential miscommunications that are happening at this time between the feminine energy coming into that state, feeling that frustration of the past rising to the surface today, feeling all of that like this purging energy. And this is masculine being like, did I come in at the wrong time? Like, is this now a good time? Like, and feminine's like, what? Like, it's a lot like that. And masculine's like, I got this for you. Like, it's a lot of that energy of the feminine, just like both of these energies like going through the same energetic process. But we see even now the difference is like the fact that feminine is in this modality right now can be very energetically intimidating towards the masculine. Because it's the masculine, like, I'm coming towards you with intentionality of purpose and honesty, and feminine's like, I am very like at like their energetic, like, like they're like, like the kettle's hissing, and then masculine's like running in. Like, so you can see to a certain extent, I want everybody to just be a little compassionate today. Don't jump to assumptions. Don't hyperbolize. Leave a little flexibility for recognizing, like, that like allow from some of this to be that moment that could be like, again, that point of energetic easement. Like, again, when you feel that like the kettle hissing, just like letting that be a moment. Like, what's the feminine doing? The kettle's hissing, taking themselves, like just cooling themselves down a little bit, like finding that ability to do so. While for masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that ability of, again, having that energetic confidence, right? Moving towards the feminine energy with that energetic confidence. Like, both of these energies need to like borrow a little from each other today. Masculine having a little bit more confidence in your energetic approach to feminine, because I can see right now that this is a very vulnerable moment for you. Like, and feminine, recognizing that, like, if masculine's coming towards you from a place of like vulnerability, just leave for a little bit of energetic allowance right now in terms of how you're feeling versus what you're effectively giving out. You know what I mean? Like, this will effectively help in some circumstances right now to avoid what often happens during retrogrades, which is miscommunications. Both of these energies feeling very passionately and strongly right now, but it's coming out in different ways. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union right now. This is that energetic equivalent that is like, and even now, this is triggering. I have to stress that this is very triggering right now for the energy experiencing this, because even at these moments that we see that a lot of these energies are moving into divine union and you're hitting these sensitivity points, that ability to immediately adapt, that ability to immediately find that modification point, that ability of something that would have potentially created an argument, would have potentially created like a whole to-do in the past. Something like as soon as it rises up, it goes back down. I'm going to amplify this again. It's that sense of love and compassion when we feel, when we look at someone and say, you make something easy. And I know how much energetic work it takes to do that. Like, then we say to someone, you make something easy, it doesn't mean that they're simple. It means it's like almost saying to someone, I understand that if you can do that, you're doing like, you've done so much complex algebra on the self that anything that would have typically been a huge problem in the past and something that would have been a massive hurdle becomes like a pebble, because you do the work on the self to permit that occurs. And even now, as these energies, that is how they build trust for one another. That's how they build that trust of each other's judgment, because that's a moment of looking towards someone and saying, we are both moving towards the same manifestation goal, which is the path of peace. Like creating that sense of energetic peace. Always what happens when you're working with an energy that has prioritized you is the energy that says, your peace is my priority. What happens? What else is the energy of love? What else is the energy of love if not your peace is my priority? And that is the energy that is building towards the mutual peace between each other, through which, even when things are difficult, they can always find that path towards energetic peace. Masculine and feminine energy. And they're doing it together. This isn't one person not doing that and the other person doing all of the heavy lifting. These are two energies that are both invested in doing that together. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency. You know how to do this. You don't need to learn this. This is why we see that this energy is working so hard right now in relationality to confronting their abandonment wounds, because this is energy that is looking towards each other and saying, I recognize that we have abandonment wounds within us. I recognize that even in our best case scenario, when you come into the divine union frequency, you're bringing in stuff with you. You brought in some of them abandonment wounds, right? And so this is why we see even now the ability of these, like the ability of the energy in the divine union frequency to say, we're building towards that path of peace so much. We're building towards that highest version of self, that if we're encountering abandonment wounds that are preventing us from coming into our highest version of self or our highest manifestation, let's unpack them. Let's face them. Let's put on our hard hat and go spelunking into a sensitive topic to be able to look at something and say, is this something that can be energetically dismantled? Is this something that can be removed? Or is this something that is energetically necessary? And the only way to ascertain that is to energetically investigate. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Queen of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Devil card and its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Empress in its reversal. It's hard. This is hard work right now, and it's very triggering. And I'm going to say it right now. It's you did recognize over the last few days it was harder for the masculine energy. I was saying that the masculine energy was going through a lot of those doubts and fears over the last few days. It's harder today for the feminine. For the feminine right now, it is feeling more difficult because a lot of this feminine energy right now, I'm just seeing some of this has to do with some like mother wounds. Like I'm just seeing this here. This has to do with some like this is some deep unpacking that is potentially occurring around some things right now, especially in the heart of the divine union frequency. A lot of this feminine energy is navigating through and recognizing a lot of this anxiety in relationality to feeling some kind of need to be energetically perfect. But here's the thing. One of the things that we see that a lot of the feminine energy is almost navigating right now in relationality to that feeling of energetic perfection is almost asking themselves, what is that word? What is that energetic feeling of being, what is energetically perfect? What is the template that I'm holding myself against, right? Because that's the feminine energy recognizing and identifying and telling you, looking at something and asking whether it's valuable or viable. If this is feminine energy that feels like they've been holding themselves to a standard that is outside of the self, if this is feminine energy that's recognizing that the standards that they're holding themselves accountable for aren't even ones that they feel like they can energetically associate to, this is a lot of the feminine energy coming into that deeper work in terms of recognizing what the feminine feels like they should, what they feel like they should, how they do feel versus what the feminine feels that like they should, like how they do feel versus what the feminine feels like how they ought to feel. Okay, I'll say that again because I know it's a little confusing. The difference between what the feminine energy should feel versus what the feminine energy feels like they ought to feel. And that is where I said again, this is where we're going to hit that realm that hits that case by case basis, because that is shifting territory. That is something that is required in a personal reading. That is that moment that feels like that point that like that is going to be different within every energetic system. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, doing that unboxing, doing that unpacking, that like almost feels like the Pandora's box, because the feminine's like, I'm utilizing this as a template, but I need to look at this to a certain extent. I need to ask myself, like, what are these things? Like, what are these things that I'm holding, that I'm utilizing to like hold myself energetically accountable for, right? So this is a lot of the feminine energy doing that work of the self, and it requires the feminine energy to do the work within the self, to discern. Again, I told you for the feminine energy right now, what is the word of the day? Location, location, location. What is within the self that the feminine wants to take accountability for and change versus what is external outside the self that the feminine feels like they're energetically confronting, right? And that is shifting territory. And it all depends on what feels like it brings you to that highest version of self. While for masculine energy, navigating forward on that is also a lot of the work that you're doing as well. You're doing the same exact work with the feminine, and some of it also has to potentially do with the mother wounds. This is a lot of the masculine energy working to heal and facilitate a lot of that healing. So a lot of the masculine also doing a lot of this energetic unpacking, if you will. I told you a lot of the masculine energy at this point of energetic healing, doing a lot of that work in recognizing and unpacking what you feel like, what you feel like you're experiencing from the feminine, your connection to feminine energy right now, having that point. And even now we see a lot of that masculine energy in the heart of the divine union. This is why the masculine is almost building that sense of helping the feminine come into their own sense of energetic power, because this is masculine energy that's almost trying to say to the feminine, I don't want you to look towards me for the template of what you aspire to be. I don't want you to become what you feel is best for me. I want you to be what you aspire and desire is best for you. So we see even now that that's like, this is very, you see how like difficult this is right now? This is some heavy energetic unpacking. And a lot of it has to do with getting to the heart of intimacy. But we see even now that a lot of this energy even in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is masculine energy looking back and healing their own connection to feminine in the process, because this is masculine energy almost taking that script that says like, you know, the feminine should like be in that place of like being perfect for the masculine and saying like, well, that's dumb, and throwing it out the window and saying the feminine should be the feminine and I should be able to facilitate and support that energetic connection with them. So we see even now that that is creating that space that both of these energies are healing by confronting these abandonment wounds. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. For the masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is discovering those wounds. And the only difficulty and hurdle that we're energetically seeing here to a certain extent is for masculine energy to almost see that point of energetic sensitivity. That can almost create that moment of energetic frustration and protectiveness in the masculine. And this is almost a masculine energy doing that work to heal their own abandonment wound and saying to themselves, I'm not going to get in that space or state where I feel like I need to energetically protect the feminine. That's that moment I told you, like the army comes running out of your closet and you have to kind of send them back by saying like, listen, this is not a space or place where I need to be energetically protective towards the feminine. This is the feminine energy that's like telling me and articulating to me something that has energetically happened or that they've experienced that requires them to have those trigger points. And that ability to recognize and to help facilitate is almost the masculine saying to the feminine, it's really triggering for me to hear that this is a trigger for you, but I will do everything I can to energetically protect it. And for the feminine to experience that is again that amplification of the feminine feeling the safety and security of the connection that they're moving into with masculine, while also trying to navigate like what they're energetically recovering from. I told you the abandonment wounds that we bring with us as we enter any type of connection. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is what we see that is so energetically difficult right now, particularly for a lot of the feminine in separation at this time. Because for a lot of the feminine energy in separation at this time, a lot of this energetic work, it feels very triggering. You're confronting a lot of internal abandonment wounds. I told you a lot of the same work that the feminine energy is having in the heart of the divine union frequency, a lot of the energy is experiencing right now in separation. And feminine energy's own ability, like that same investigation in terms of what standard you hold yourself to. That is the feminine doing a lot of that energetic unpacking. Why is the feminine energy doing a lot of that unpacking? Because what happens when we set healthy boundaries for ourselves? What are healthy boundaries? An unhealthy boundary is something that we put up because we're afraid. A healthy boundary is a standard we maintain. So an unhealthy boundary is something we put up because we're afraid. A healthy boundary is a standard that we maintain. So the feminine energy in separation is trying to come into alignment with their highest version of self, recognizing that the feminine energy in their highest version of self will have standards that will become the boundary for the energy that may have caused the feminine to require healing in the first place. While for masculine energy right now, this is masculine energy in separation, doing a lot of that work, potentially in recognizing and identifying and looking at the past and potentially recognizing and realizing spaces and places wherein you feel like you could have energetically done better. And I'm going to say this again, masculine energy, if you're having that moment, I want you to energetically celebrate it. Because it's a moment that we look back and we can say to ourselves, I wish I could do something better. That is the moment, an opportunity that a new frontier is possible. That is not a moment to be caught or lost in any unhealed coping mechanism or bad modality of thought. That is that moment that offers that point of energetic breakthrough. That is that moment that can be an opportunity to do energetically better, so long as you don't let yourself fall into those modalities of remorse, of regret, of rage, of frustration. Letting that be a moment that, again, motivates you forward in better ways. That is the amplification that drives that pathwork away from what feels like something that is like that, that externalized regret, that frustration, that woulda, coulda, shoulda, versus saying, I am, and I will, and I will continue forward. I'm going to do better. I know what to do now. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Devil card in combination with our High Priestess. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups. Masculine and feminine energy right now The feminine energy in separation right now, this is a lot of the feminine energy just navigating forward and doing this to a certain extent through that act of energetic discernment. This is a lot of the feminine energy right now in separation, like manifesting through that highest version of self, looking towards what that is, building upon the shape of it. Because once we're able to navigate forward and recognizing and identifying that highest version of self, well, then things become a lot energetically clearer. Because for the feminine energy in separation, that moment of saying, like, you know, the highest version of self holds themselves to a high energetic standard. That's almost the feminine energy building that template of the self within the self. That again builds that sense of energetic guidance, because that's that moment of the feminine energy learning how to trust their own judgment or learning how to trust their own instinct. Even if that means that something that the feminine energy feels doesn't necessarily feel like it moves with the same alignment of the energy around them. That's the feminine energy almost saying to themselves, I know that my highest version of self will guide me towards the energy that matches my own frequency. All I need to do is trust that energy, trust that highest guidance, allow that to be the pathwork that moves me towards that sense of building towards what feels like it is for me versus what feels like it is not in alignment to me. And even now we see that a lot of the feminine energy is kind of having to utilize that today. And even now a lot of that, like taking some of that frustration energy and moving it into that pathwork of just saying, I'm going to just let this help me articulate upon that. Like in a way that frustration that the feminine's feeling, especially if it's energetically new, it's almost like that frustration is helping the feminine come into connection with that highest version of self, because it's helping the feminine identify and recognize and say, if I'm looking back at the past and I'm feeling something that is frustrating, if I'm looking back at the past and I'm feeling something that, like, you know, gets my gall up, I'm no longer the same person that would have accepted something. So that's almost the feminine feeling the assurance and being like, I'm already there, I'm halfway there, I'm already moving in that direction. Because feminine's like, I'm looking and I'm holding my own past self at a higher standard. I'm angry for them means I'm holding myself at, like, holding the self at the higher standard. While as for masculine energy in separation right now, this modality of purpose, this is that pathwork that we see even now. A lot of this has to do with what direction that ability of recognizing and wanting to build forth right now is effectively guiding you. I'm going to say it again. Some of the masculine energy right now, you're potentially even asking yourself if you are ready for divine union. Because even now, masculine energy potentially recognizing and identifying to a certain extent that, again, the choice as to whether to move into divine union is not something that is for energetically for everyone. It's hard work. We've been told all we do here is talk about how energetically difficult it can be. Rewarding, but difficult. But we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, your own perception on this, it feels like there has to be an amplification of choice. Because for masculine energy, that modality of recognizing and identifying, wanting to move towards feminine, it feels like that moment right now that, again, it's like all a question of what you're energetically prioritizing. Like, are you looking towards prioritizing a true connection with feminine, building into that sense of finding an energetic counterpart that's in alignment with you that you can build with? Or is your ability to maintain and navigate a sense or abundance of choice, having no prioritization, having no choice, being able to do whatever one energetically wants? Like again, autonomy also comes with an energetic price. The price of energetic autonomy is losing the ability to build with someone into a place of, like, deep invested pathwork. So even now, a lot of the masculine energy making that determination point, that's either taking accountability towards a feminine if you're moving in this direction by saying, I recognize that I wasn't ready to energetically commit towards you. And that's the masculine taking that energetic accountability, coming into the heart of intimacy as it relates to, again, trying to heal with past pathwork of feminine. Or this is masculine energy that's learning that valuable lesson and utilizing that as a question of asking oneself, what is it that you truly aspire and desire for right now? Is your manifestation goal one wherein you see and recognize and desire to build into the heart of intimacy with a feminine counterpart, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to? Or is this a space or place that you feel like that's not something that's in alignment to you, that you want to kind of keep your energetic options open, recognizing that when you leave your energetic options open, you close doors on access to certain energy that's not aspiring, desiring to be in the same space or place as you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, the energy moving into the divine union frequency right now, this is the energy that prioritizes. This is a lot of that energy that has made that prioritization point in alignment with what they're building towards right now. And we see and recognize right now that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, a lot of this energy coming into the divine union frequency right now, you're discovering each other's triggers. You're discovering each other's vulnerabilities. And what we see that is happening right now for a lot of the energy coming into divine union frequency, the ability to see and recognize that amplification point of being able to build into the heart of intimacy with someone and feeling that sense of someone who's willing to energetically protect those sensitive spaces. That's that moment that almost, again, feels like the energy that's truly recognizing the value of being truly seen and truly known by the other, because that's that energy of feeling like these aren't energies that pretend to be energetically perfect for each other, nor are these energies that need to be energetically perfect. But it's almost that moment of seeing someone's vulnerabilities, seeing someone's weaknesses, and saying, I don't see anything there that I don't love. Why? Because these energies are on the same pathwork of continually trying to heal the things that they see within themselves that require healing. And what happens if we're always being very mindful of healing within us what we feel like we aspire or desire to fix? That is the energy that says, even when I see something within you that feels like it is difficult, that doesn't feel like something that is too great of a burden to carry, because I see that you see it as well. It's something that you're constantly working to fix and to modify. You're mindful of it before I even recognize it. And to, in a way, being able to be mindful of our own vulnerabilities, of our own shadows, of our own abandonment wounds. That is how we protect those around us, because that's us looking and saying, like, I know what's within me. I know what my own triggers are, and I know what is outside of me. I know what is external of me. While for the energy right now, in the heart of the divine union frequency, this has reached such a moment that we see that these energies are effectively energetically not just protecting each other from these, but they're actively confronting them. They're actively confronting any that feel like they've come up to become an energetic blocker, something that feels like it is potentially preventing someone from coming into their highest version of self. But what's valuable and important in recognizing that is this is not energy that's looking towards another and saying, you need to fix this because who I aspire you to be doesn't do these things. These are energies that hold the template that the other aspires to and utilizes that, looks at that and says, I know that you want these things. This is what you're going to have to do to get there. This is what you're going to have to facilitate to change to get there. So even now, that ability to confront something, even if it's difficult, it's that moment of energetic compassion, because it's almost someone having that hard conversation, but doing so with the energetic sense of compassion at the heart of it, saying, I'm saying something to you that is hard to say energetically, but I'm doing so for the sake of trying to tell you something that I know will help you get closer to what that highest version of self is. Continuing to get clarification on this pathwork right now between our High Priestess and our Judgment card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. It's difficult. It's difficult. This is difficult. I told you, it's like having conversations like this, doing this type of work. It can feel like it's walking on eggshells. I also see it feels like there's a lot of unpacking around something here. Like a lot of trying to get to the heart of something. And it feels very energetically messy. But these energies, what we're seeing to a certain extent is like the energy in the divine union welcomes that type of energetic mess. It's like welcoming it. It's like having that moment of almost saying to oneself, sometimes the only way to clean something is to make a mess, right? Because that's that moment that feels like you get everything out to be able to ascertain and understand what feels like it's valuable, what feels like it's important versus what feels like you can get rid of. I told you, spring cleaning. Right? You have to figure out what you need, and then you can get rid of what you don't need. So we're doing this almost energetically, and it has to do with the abandonment wounds. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is the energy of learning as you go. This is like cleaning as you go. This is like having that moment of being like, I didn't know that needed to be cleaned. Oh, I didn't know that was there. Oh, I didn't know that you had that closet there. Like that's that moment of bumping into these things. But again, it's not the fact that you're experiencing them, it's how you're handling them that's moving you even deeper into the heart of intimacy. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, what we're energetically seeing to a certain extent, which is why this feels so difficult, is the fact that for masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is feminine energy in separation, looking back on anything that wasn't working in the past with a new set point of clarity. This is the feminine energy almost coming into a higher version of self while in separation that is looking towards something with new optics. When you move towards that highest version of self, that higher version of self has a different perspective on things. So we effectively identify that for a lot of the feminine energy in that modality right now, looking at something with that new set of energetic eyes is what feels like it's creating that pathwork of being able to sense that, like look towards something and having a much different opinion on things. While for masculine energy right now, this modality of effectively looking back on this is the energy meeting each other along the way. For the masculine energy, looking back and having a different energetic opinion on things, that's that moment that either feels like the amplification point in terms of trying to come back into restoration, seeing and recognizing something from the perspective of the feminine that you couldn't see before, or this is masculine energy that is utilizing that past path work, taking the accountability for what you understand that you need to correct now, that's giving you that heightened sense of judgment as you move forward to be able to find alignment with some kind of new connection with feminine. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Wands in its reversal and our Empress card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. Feminine energy, even now, we see that a lot of this path work right now, like there's a lot of path work here. And this is how the feminine energy is coming into that state of like, and I think that this is really beautiful. A lot of this feminine energy right now is potentially looking back at situations or circumstances wherein they may have felt like they needed some kind of energetic apology, but almost feeling to a certain extent like they almost like, this is not the feminine energy like seeking out an energetic apology is what we're seeing here. This is almost like the feminine energy saying if someone doesn't recognize and see this from this perspective, it's not the feminine energy's responsibility or job to try to go seeking it out energetically, because that's almost the feeling of the feminine saying as they come into that moment of unknowing why. Like the confusion that energetically creates of feminine looking at something and saying, is that energy from the past aware that they energetically owe me an apology? Or are they not mindful of exactly what was occurring in those moments? That's the feminine almost saying it doesn't really matter either way because the results are the same. It's like this is a feminine almost like feeling that moment. I told you a lot of the energetic confusion potentially rising up as to the why on something, and feminine saying it doesn't really matter why. If the results are the same, what does it matter, right? And that's the feminine saying, feminine reaffirming their manifestation and saying, the energy that knows my value, that knows my worth, will be the energy that can come forward from a place of reconciliation to identify and recognize what they owe in terms of how they were treating someone. Or this is feminine energy coming into a space or place of saying to themselves, I will utilize that past path work to hold the standards stronger going forward to make sure that I don't allow energy with that point of confusion to come towards me in the first place. The feminine's not going into trying to understand the why of something. They're just getting very pragmatic and practical and saying, all I need to do is see that it was occurring. It doesn't matter the reasons as to why. Masculine energy right now in separation, this is the energy that's potentially, again, a lot of this masculine energy. If you're trying to come back towards a feminine here, you're recognizing and identifying it's not just so easy as being able to come back into connection with feminine. You have to be able to articulate on the why. Like that's almost like that is the cost of entry, if you will. Like that's why we see even now there's trepidation for a lot of the masculine energy, because being able to come into the heart of intimacy and not just feel something within, but have to like articulate it from without. Being able to actually tell the feminine, I recognize that I could have energetically done better. Like that's a masculine that either understands like that is going to be what is required to be able to come into some sense of healing with the feminine, or that's going to be why there's that preventative moment and not being able to, because your own anxiety and being able to articulate your own accountability towards the feminine is like almost that moment that feels like that limitation vector in terms of identifying and recognizing something about like whether you just utilize that as the lesson in path work going forward. Because for a lot of that masculine energy, there is that like, and this is why we see that for a lot of the masculine energy doing this, you're not doing it with the hope that the feminine will energetically forgive you. This is masculine energy that's enough on enough of a healing journey that they're saying, I'm doing this for my own self. I'm doing this because I recognize, I feel the karmic debt of what I know I owe, regardless as to what occurs on the other side of that. That's a lot of that masculine energy saying, I just want to come into that state or space of being able to energetically heal regardless of that energetic outcome, because that's that moment of the masculine feeling the sense of moving towards their own priorities. And again, that highest version of self that calls forth that need to take energetic accountability for our actions. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is the energy that takes accountability when these things occur. This is even why it can almost feel energetically triggering when you're in that modality, because being able to move with someone who immediately takes accountability, that's always the first to kind of lean forward, that's always the one that says like, what can I do to do energetically better? These are energies that are on that healing vibration, because they're the moment that, again, they're finding that sweet spot in terms of always moving towards the heart of energetic compassion, wanting to correct something. That immediately creates that sense of saying, if you make something energetically easy, it's because these energies both move in the same way. Even when they don't move in the same way, their prioritization on the other and putting themselves out in the process, like that is a moment of saying to someone, your peace is my priority. Doesn't mean I'm relinquishing my peace. It means that you are my peace. Continuing to get clarification on this, the energy in the heart of the divine union is trying to build more perfect peace. They're trying to move in that state or space of building towards their manifestation goals to such an extent that they're being very mindful energetically on what they feel like they need to energetically heal. Because this is that moment of, again, looking towards the self and saying, what is working, what is not? What is creating that sense of possibility? What is creating that moment of like preventing path work? Because it's that moment of looking towards someone and having a hard conversation, but almost doing so for the sake of the other. That's almost saying, I'm not doing this to kind of move you out of alignment. I'm trying to do this to help you get into deeper alignment with what I know or who I know you aspire to be. So even now we see that that's that moment that a challenging conversation during this time can lead to an energetic breakthrough. Continuing to get clarification between our Empress in its reversal and our Three of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. We've got here our 10 of Wands. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union. It's hard work. But what is the energy in the divine union doing right now? The energy in the divine union frequency is not avoiding hard work. It's committed to doing hard work, because the prioritization of the energy in the divine union isn't about immediate gratification. It's not thinking about the immediate moment. It's not thinking about like, what it feels like to have a Band-Aid ripped off. You're thinking about like the ultimate energetic healing. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, coming into that space of assessment, coming into that place of hard scrutiny, navigating these things is something that feels like it's energetically welcome, because that's that moment that feels, again, like a point that creates an opportunity for, more productive outcomes going forward, building alignment in terms of long-term manifestation goals, identifying the difference between a rut and a groove. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency right now, this is discovering these along the way. These are hitting these moments that like the honeymoon period is over to a certain extent. Identifying those moments, it's like not the fact that the energy has to be perfect, but again, feeling that sense that even when you hit those imperfections, the ability to navigate forward in such a way that you're putting the prioritization on the peace of another, but also not sacrificing your own peace at the same time, that is the sign of energetic alignment. Because it's not taking you off your path to be able to meet someone else's energetic needs. That is that moment that feels like you're moving together and not in oppositional directions. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this ability of recognizing this is the feminine energy potentially recognizing and realizing places in the past wherein they may have felt like they drifted very far from their own energetic path. that moment, or identifying that, again, what's the difference between a conflict and an argument? An argument are two people or that want the same things. They just have different ways of going about it. A conflict are two energies that are trying to pull each other in very different directions. So we see even now that feminine energy's own identification of what feels like it was a conflict, something that was pulling you off of your path at the cost of your own self, versus an argument. So deviations in terms of trying to go to the same manifestation goal, but just having different ways of getting about it. That's what's helping facilitate a lot of this feminine energy coming into points of closure right now. While for masculine, this is a lot of masculine energy in separation right now, coming into that modality of seeing and understanding. Particularly, and again, if you did not lead with towards feminine with a state of speaking towards your manifestation goals, if there was feminine energy that came into a point of energetic confusion around you, this is potentially why. Because the feminine energy is always in that state or space of being willing to energetically sacrifice, so long as they feel like that there's that moment that they're doing so for that long-term path work. But for a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, that observational point, and this is more of that masculine energy, feeling the weight of coming to a decision as to whether you truly desire divine union or not, understanding and recognizing that, when you move into divine union, the prioritization of another energy, it requires you to do a lot of hard work on yourself. It requires you to be able to do enough work on yourself to build into the heart of intimacy, to prioritize an energetic connection with feminine through which all things are possible. That's a lot of the masculine energy, having a moment of asking oneself if you feel like you're energetically ready for that type of energetic connection. Because we see even now, this is masculine energy, recognizing and realizing that there's that moment of like working through those points of identifying and feeling to a certain extent where, like, and this is going to change on a case-by-case basis. Like, where is it that your heart is sending you back towards? Is this masculine energy that is looking towards the past to try to come into that feeling of having lost something that was very valuable in the past now that your priorities have changed? Or is this masculine energy that is utilizing that as some type of heavy energetic lesson that you'll be carrying with you as you proceed forward into the unknown of the future? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Cups in its upright and our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Pentacles in its reversal. This is why right now, if feminine energy isn't receiving that intentionality of purpose right now from masculine, feminine energy is just energetically releasing it. I told you, feminine energy is not inclined to anything that feels like it's energetically confusing right now. Feminine energy is just looking at the binary right now of whether something feels like it is, if it's coming forward or if it's confusing, if it's coming forward or if it's confusing. And that's a feminine energy seeing something and saying, if it's energetically confusing, feminine's like, I'll just pass on that. Because that's a feminine energy almost looking at the masculine saying, if you're coming towards me from a state of confusion, all you're saying to me is you're not necessarily energetically ready. That's a feminine just says, almost immediately says, that's not something that I'm generating in you. That's something that I need to observe. And that's, again, feminine energy saying you're either not energetically ready, as in you haven't done the path work necessary that'll allow you to be able to move into divine union in a way that'll make it possible, or you don't truly desire divine union. And that's a feminine saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one it is. It doesn't matter the reasons. It's all the same. It doesn't matter if you still need to learn these lessons, if you still have to come into that understanding point, or if you genuinely don't desire that. The feminine saying, if you're not articulate on what you want, either way, you're showing me that you're not prepared energetically to meet me where I am. So we see even now that that's a lot of the feminine just kind of moving forward, if you will, and amplifying that feeling of having an energetic breakthrough in that moment, because that's the feminine energy feeling like they're protecting their peace. And manifesting masculine energy that will protect the feminine energy's peace, because the energy in the divine union prioritizes each other's peace. While for masculine energy in separation right now, this is masculine energy. You may be having a moment in terms of recognizing and identifying that if there were places and spaces of energetic confusion in the past, this is that moment of taking some energetic accountability. And especially if there were moments wherein you didn't necessarily build forth towards feminine, didn't give them that clarification, either from a point of anxiety, of fear, not being able to do that work of the self that allows you to be able to be open and honest with the feminine in relation to your feelings. Or if this is masculine energy that was at a point where you weren't ready for divine union at this time, we see even now that that ability of sensing and understanding that in one way or another is allowing that energetic breakthrough point, because that's the clarification of setting one's purpose that is helping you either, again, go back towards something to heal it, or moving forward and taking with you that deep energetic lesson. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 7 of Wands and its reversal in combination with our 10 of Wands and its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 8 of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is that moment. I mean, like, I have to say, I can see why this is both, I'll describe it this way. It feels very heavy, but it also feels very energetically liberating. It feels very energetically heavy, but it also feels very energetically liberating, because what we're effectively seeing right now is at that moment of that deepened understanding that, again, feels like it's like road opening. It allows for some expansion of possibility, because it's that moment of recognizing and understanding a lesson that then liberates you forward as you proceed forward from this point. For feminine energy specifically in separation right now, this is that moment of energetic acceptance. This is a lot of feminine energy in separation coming to a point of energetic closure around circumstances or situations. It's almost like this moment of feminine energy looking back on something and saying, it's heavy, but it is what it is. Right? That's not feminine energy moving, like intentionally going back to the past to try to get clarification on carrying something energetically heavy. This is feminine energy finding a way to energetically shoulder that burden as they proceed forward from this point, and being very energetically mindful as they do so. While for masculine energy and separation right now, this is a determination point. And that's a feminine having located what the circumstance is and healing from something. While for masculine, this is all about energetic direction right now. It's all about which direction you move towards right now. Because for a lot of masculine energy, I told you, this is a breakthrough that is happening. That, again, having a breakthrough doesn't necessarily help point you in a direction. Your own sense of desire, your own sense of intentionality of purpose, your own heart needs to guide you in what that direction is. So for some of the masculine, this is either going back to a circumstance or situation that you feel like you left something valuable and important on. A person that you feel like you now prioritize, having the fact that your own priorities have shifted. Or this is masculine energy that is carrying a heavy karmic burden with them as they proceed forward, utilizing and understanding why something didn't energetically work prior to this point. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this ability of recognizing and doing that karmic work, feeling that sense of having some energetic triggers hit right now, especially with this scorpionic full moon, but again, immediately finding easement. There's no problem that doesn't immediately generate a solution. There's never a mindfulness that doesn't occur. Almost immediate seeing that path of correction forming with someone who's being very energetically mindful in working towards manifesting the peace, like in the present, finding like that is the energy that says, I'm not here because something is energetically easy. I'm going to make something energetically easy because I desire it. And that's that sense that we understand and recognize that when we say to someone, you make something easy, it's the idea of making. That's saying thank you. Thank you for always doing that work in prioritizing the energetic piece between us, that you always create that energetic easement point, because that is the point of you identifying and recognizing the fact that I see that you prioritize that type of work. Well, for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is the energy that is doing that unpacking within the self and with the counterpart to confront the abandonment wounds, to identify the difference between, again, a rut versus a groove. A rut is something that you've discovered within yourself that is blocking you from moving towards your manifestation goal. A groove is something that you need to stay focused on because you know that that is the pathwork to reaching that highest version of self. And the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is having that hard work right now and trying to identify one from the other. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ten of Wands in combination with our Page of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. And for both of these energies right now, it's hard. It's hard. You're doubting yourself. The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is doubting themselves right now, because on top of doing this work, you got the energetic heaviness of the Mercury retrograde cycle there to just add that level or degree of frustration to everything. Masculine and feminine energy, it's hitting you in different places. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For feminine, a lot of emotional vulnerability right now. A lot of the emotions coming to the forefront. Masculine, a lot of frustrations or feelings of anxiety in relationality to like the substantive areas, the tangible areas. For both of these energies right now, again, supporting one another through that work, identifying, helping point out what feels like it is problematic versus what is not. That ability of discernment, that ability of utilizing sound, that judgment point. That is what is amplifying to a certain degree what feels like it is creating that momentum of breakthrough. What is helping identify and saying, this is just the energetic frequency that we're in right now. We need to push through it. Versus having something and saying, well, this is something that I've noticed has been going on for a while and we need to energetically address it. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is the point of like understanding. This is like the end of a lot of honeymoon periods, if you will, for a lot of the energy coming into divine union. But this is the energy that almost immediately welcomes this. This is an energy that was sticking around for the honeymoon period. This is the energy that's almost excited for discovering or building into the heart of intimacy with experiencing these moments. Because what happens when we feel these energetic triggers are hit, but then we're there to support each other through it? That's that moment that we really feel that act of energetic love and compassion, because that's that moment of energy that says, I'm going to show you can trust me. I can show you that even when you're at your worst, I'm going to be here, because I also know that you're never at your worst, because even your worst is your best. And that's not something that happens like organically. That is something that these energies are constantly mindful of, which is why these energies are in alignment in the first place. Because there's a moment here that we see that even when these energies are at their worst, it's like the energy looks at the other and says, this is nothing. Like this is energetically nothing. This is manageable, because I see the fact that you're constantly doing that work on the self. Okay, well, for the energy right now that is in separation, this is just a lot of closure. This is either energy going back for energetic closure right now, or energy that is reaching a point of energetic closure. For feminine, a lot of closure being reached around energy. Like this is literally the feminine energy almost affirming to themselves in these modalities right now. If it's not here, it doesn't matter if it's not here out of fear or if the fact that it never was there. The feminine saying, if it's not here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the reason, it's not energetically here. And the feminine's almost affirming and saying, my path is that way. I'm going to continue to move forward in that way, knowing that what I'm seeking is that way. It's not going back to the past. The feminine realizes they don't have to run back to the past and look at someone and say, like, have you healed yet? Like feminine's like, and feminine's almost saying to themselves, I don't need to understand the reasons as to why someone wasn't coming towards me from a point of intentionality and path of purpose. The feminine's like, I just need to observe that and let that serve as the lesson that I'm carrying forward with me from this time. While for masculine energy, in separation right now, this is that moment of energetic accountability wherein you may recognize and realize and see something where you may be feeling a lot of frustration potentially at past versions of self, especially if you may have felt like a moment that you had different priorities in the past. Those lack of priority, like anything, I don't want to say lack of priority in the past, but if your priorities have shifted, it's really important that you navigate that with a sense of energetic grace for the past version of self, because that is the moment that like the minute you're able to look back at the past version of self and say, I would do something energetically better. Well, congratulations. You've got ample opportunity in the present moment to do so. So this is either masculine energy that is confronting their own, like your own energetic anxiety and fear and doing that hard work to try to like build a bridge back with the feminine energy that is your priority. Or this is masculine energy that is doing that, utilizing that as a valuable lesson that you're carrying forth as you proceed forward on the path in terms of recognizing and identifying what feels like it's in energetic alignment towards you. Final card for today's spread, between our Eight of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Are you transverse? Are you really transverse? Got a transverse. Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. That tracks with today's reading. Listen, this is why I've been saying over and over and over and over, today is not the day to get triggered. Today is the day you may feel like you're going to get triggered. Today feels like the day that your abandoned wounds are going to get bumped, but being able to navigate through them in a place, not letting yourself get energetically triggered. I think it's so funny that we're ending where we started. Like, that is the value metric for today. If you can just maintain even composure through energetically triggering conversations, congratulations, great job. Because what we're effectively seeing to a certain extent right now, all across the board, this is one of those days that it feels like there's like a lot of poking at abandonment wounds. Some of it's intentional. The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is going for it. A lot of this is a lot of intentional path work that's happening right now for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency. We've been discussing this, that difference between what feels like a groove versus what feels like a rut. You have to recognize, again, whether it feels like the abandonment wounds are useful. They protect us. But navigating what feels like it energetically protects us versus what feels like it's not energetically serving us, that is how we come into that sense of recognizing and getting into better alignment within our own selves. So we just recognize and identify that for a lot of the energy right now, having that point of understanding and recognition, as it were, is what is amplifying between what feels like it is serving the energetic purpose versus what feels like it is not. And it's hard. It's triggering to have those type of conversations, but those are exactly the type of conversations that lead to energetic breakthroughs. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this modality that we're seeing effectively in recognizing and identifying, this is that moment that we see that this is the energy of encountering. This is potentially a lot of energy encountering the abandonment wounds of the other for the first time, experiencing them for the first time, and being able to navigate through them in a way that doesn't feel like it creates that sense of anxiety, but almost fostering that sense of compassion and discernment is what is amplifying that moment. That's like the difficulty or the tie that binds, because there's that moment of seeing something, experiencing how someone's affected by it, and then wanting to do better, that shows that sense of empathy and love and care. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is a lot of energy experiencing, I love this, experiencing the abandonment wound right now, full tilt, but not energetically reacting towards it. Observing it within the self, but not reacting to it, is the amplification of energetic healing here, because that's that moment of feeling something, but asking oneself, does that feel like it's leading me in the direction that I want to go? Or is that something that's pulling me back in a direction that I'm aspiring and desiring not to go? And a lot of that for the feminine has to do with almost like consulting that higher version of self and saying, like, what are your thoughts on the subject? And so that will change on a case-by-case basis in alignment with what feels like your highest self is guiding you to do. While for masculine energy right now, there's that modality or moment where you may be confronting, again, how those abandonment wounds may have energetically acted as a blocker inadvertently in the past. If you couldn't see your abandonment wounds in the past, you may be discovering and feeling that sense of frustration in terms of the fact that, like, a moment that you were trying to you should have pulled someone closer to you in the moment of intimacy, you pushed them away. If you're experiencing this right now and you're observing even now, if you're even now feeling that sense of wanting to move towards feminine, but you still have that same anxiety and fear rising up, there's that moment that almost feels like today is a good day for trying to, like, confront one's own inner self. like one's own inner limitations, to ask yourself if they feel like they're validated, if they feel like they're there for a reasonable purpose, or if they're preventing you from being able to move with the intentionality of purpose that your highest self requires or desires. Bottom of the deck on this reading today is, Six of Swords. It's hard. There's a lot of grief here. There's a lot of energetic grief here. Because this moment or this modality, I have to say, placing the source of an energetic hurt doesn't make the energetic hurt, doesn't go poof, oh good, I discovered where it lives and now it's gone. Figuring out that moment, it doesn't mean that it's just gone. It's more about a question of how you energetically carry something, right? Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation. A lot of this is that moment that feels like it's that heavy energy of looking at the past and recognizing and seeing it your own alignment with where you are presently. For feminine, this is that moment of looking back in the past. And again, like I'll have to say to feminine, hindsight is 20/20, but that's also why hindsight is very faulty. You can't fault yourself for something that you see now that you couldn't see then, because that's a sign that you have energetically grown. You've advanced, you've evolved enough, you've come into a highest version of self that you can see something in a way that you couldn't see it before. While for masculine, the same is true. If you're looking back and holding some kind of energetic regret, well, congratulations, because the present is the place or space wherein all things are possible. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, the problem or the hurdle that happens, a lot of these wounds that these energies are finding within one another, they weren't even placed there by the other. A lot of these are energies of having experienced circumstances and situations in the past that created these abandonment wounds in the first place. So there's that feeling like that's the problem, that even when we move into divine union, it's not like you say like I move into divine union and suddenly anything that ever hurt me goes away. It's that moment of trying to navigate all that pain. It's that moment of recognizing and feeling it and knowing that you need to energetically carry it with you to a certain extent, but trying to find a way, even at times when things are moving positively, to manage all of those energetic lessons. Wisdom is heavy. It's painful, but it's also valuable because it helps us build that sense of understanding on what feels like it works best as we go forward. While for masculine and feminine energy that's in the heart of the divine union right now, this is that moment that feels really difficult, because this is about having that hard conversation, doing something energetically, observing something. But what's happening for the energy in the divine union frequency, that ability to do so, it almost feels like having that moment of energetic acceptance, if you will, being able to observe and see something, having that ability to talk about something, even if it's energetically difficult. That's almost like, again, it's like, it's not the fact of like trying to create a problem where a problem doesn't exist. It's almost facing something in a way that's difficult, but almost feels like the only way that something can be effectively confronted. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can do so on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never reach out to you for a reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do that there. Also, some updates before we close up today. First and foremost, I want to let you guys know we had our first tarot class this week. Huge thank you to everybody who joined us in that classwork. We started our tarot journey with the Fool, a full deep dive of the Fool. I really appreciate everyone who came to the class and made it possible. It was a fantastic experience. I'm so looking forward to continuing forward and doing these with you as we move forward. Our second class will be on the first card in the tarot, the Magician. That class will be on May 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. All you need to do, if you missed our first class, never fear. All of the recordings for the classes and the course materials are provided to the subscribers to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. All you need to do to become a part of our class program is subscribe to my Substack. Your subscription, your paid subscription, will grant you access to every month's classes, every month's live class, as well as the recordings of the classes if you missed any of them, as well as all of the course materials for those classes. Also, a one-on-one chat with me, wherein if you have any questions in relation to anything that we've learned in the class or anything you'd like me to go over, I'm happy to unpack it with you. And extra, if you become a founding member to my Substack, included in your subscription will also be a free 1 hour one-on-one meeting, mentorship meeting with me, wherein we will review where you are on your own tarot journey, and I'll give you some insight in terms of what I feel will be best to help you take the most that you can from the classes going forward. I built these classes specifically to be useful and foundational for both absolutely brand spanking new tarot readers as well as those who are well seasoned on their journey. So there's a bit of something for everyone there. I so hope, thank you to everybody who's already joining in those classes. And if you would like to, please be sure to give us subscribe over at graystrega.substack.com. Also a reminder, even if you don't subscribe to my Substack, you can still become a follower to my Substack, wherein you'll be able to stay updated on any new projects, opportunities, events, classwork that we may be doing. We've got a lot of ideas and stuff in the works that we're working on right now. I really hope that you guys will hop over there and join me there so that we can continue to share in these experiences together. That said, I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And we will do this again tomorrow.